There's no such thing as the uniturn. In fact, if you do the so-called uniturn, you can get a lot of problems on your forehand. And here is what will happen to your forehand if you set it up with the so-called uniturn. Number one, you're gonna have very robotic movement. See, naturally, we don't set up in the most optimal way when our arms are stretched out across the body. If we make a complete turn like this, we're gonna be moving in a robotic way, and this is a very counterintuitive technique. The better way to move and set up is to have the hands a little bit closer to the body, kind of like a sprinter runs. If you ever watch a sprinter, they have their hands close to the body and they're moving in unison with the legs. And this is exactly how professional players set up. They have the hands close to the body and then move like this. Also, if you do the so-called uniturn, you're initiating your actual stroke way too early, because now you already are dropping the racket, and this is the initiation of the stroke. Remember, the forehand stroke is initiated when the non-dominant arm separates from the dominant arm. So by doing the uniturn, you are hurting the continuity of your stroke, and most importantly, you're going to be lacking swing momentum as a result of that. And let me explain to you why people are misinterpreting this position of the forehand as the uniturn, and most importantly, this is often miscategorized as the first thing that happens on the forehand. So yes, there will be a position like this on the forehand. It's absolutely true, but it is not the first thing you do on the forehand. It is actually the third thing you do on the forehand. And here's how the forehand sequence works. So we're going to be in a ready position, and when we see the ball coming to the forehand, we're not going to turn completely, right? Because this is going to hurt our setup. And the setup is the second phase of the forehand. Once we make that slight turn towards the forehand side, we're still going to have our hands close to the body. We might even hold on to the racket, and if not, we can have the hands fairly close to each other. And now we're going to set up. We already talked about why this is the better way to set up. And then once we are set up perfectly to strike the ball, we are going to initiate the stroke, which begins when the hands start to separate, and now the racket will go back. And when the racket starts to drop, this is when that non-dominant arm gets activated. And yes, this is going to be a position that's going to be achieved on the forehand. However, it is not a static position, it is a dynamic position. In fact, this position is so dynamic that it's not even seen when you watch a forehand in real time. Of course, if you watch it in super slow motion, it looks somewhat deceiving because it looks like players are waiting in this position. But if you watch a forehand in real time, you would hardly see the uniturn. Players come in and out of that position very quickly. And therefore, any high-level player is not even aware of the term uniturn, and they never think about it. It is a natural position that will be achieved if you do the correct forehand sequencing. So if you initially turn slightly towards the forehand side, you keep the hands close to your body, and then once you initiate the stroke by going back with the racket, separating the hands, and now once that racket starts to drop, that non-dominant arm will get initiated, and this is what looks like the uniturn. We're going to have a full turn because now we're initiating the stroke, and turning the shoulders is very important, and this position is going to be dynamic, so you're going to come in and out of the position very quickly, and it looks something like this. So again, you're not going to have to worry about the uniturn if you have the correct forehand sequencing, and you must absolutely not do this movement as the first thing on your forehand, because it would severely hurt your continuity, rhythm, and momentum, and also it's going to make it very robotic and difficult to set up your forehand correctly.